Welcome, everybody. This is Richard Sachs, your host on Lost Arts Radio. This is Lost Arts Radio Live, and we're actually live worldwide, anywhere you can get to the internet to see us, and a lot going on right now. We're going to use the time we've got as well as we can. We've just been informed by one of our criminal agencies known as AP that Biden has won the presidential election. It's not necessarily true because there's a lot of contention about it right now. And there are groups of people trying to get that straightened out around the country as we speak, so it's not over. And there's a lot connected to that. There are people talking about increased lockdowns coming very soon with the so-called pandemic, and we've talked a lot about that. All these things are tied together. And the question that it always boils down to is, okay, we got all these things happening. What can regular people do? And what are the options to make things better for a more positive outcome in the future? And one of the best people that I like to talk to about that with is Sheriff Richard Mack. And he's with us today to our great privilege. And we're going to use the time to talk about issues connected with what's going on in the world and what people can do. So welcome, Sheriff Mack. Nice to see you.
Well, thank you so much, Richard. It's great to be with you on this National Day of Mourning.
Thank you. We should have had banners on the screen for that. But you want to say a little bit about, just in case somebody's, woke up for the first time this year and doesn't know anything about what's happening, why do you say that it's a day of mourning? Obviously, I know, but just to make sure everybody's up with us.
Well, first of all, liars and cheaters and provocateurs and a great deal of sabotage has gone into subverting the presidency of one Donald J. Trump. It's been happening for about close to, even during his campaign, close to 5 years. Now, and I'm in no way trying to call Donald Trump a saint. I think he's done an admirable job as president. I think he took the blows and stood for what was right in a lot of ways. I don't believe he knows the Constitution very well, but he does know business and he does know fairness, and he has tried to do what he said he was going to do. Before we get into all of the evil machinations that have been after him, I believe that all for the last 5 years, especially the last 4 years, culminated in this election. I believe the international globalists, humanists, people who want us to be over by communists and socialists, made sure that the voting or this election was pretty much rigged. And I will say it this way. They changed the rules of how people could vote because of the coronavirus.
Right.
People needed extra time and extra allowances because of the coronavirus. That is the biggest crock of crap there ever was. But however they could use the coronavirus to go after Donald Trump, they did.
Mm-hmm.
And they will continue to do so. And
yeah, and I
don't have a lot of evidence of what that there was universal cheating and that they stuffed the ballots. But I do know that they've been cheating the last 4 to 5 years, trying to get rid of him, fabricating this huge story that he was somehow an agent of Russia, and that's how ridiculous it got. And then fabricating an impeachment against him just so they could help damage him politically because they knew it wasn't going to go anywhere.
Right.
But they're willing to spend our money, their time, and show the obvious corruption that they are a part of and that is ingrained in their blood. And so it's obvious that to any impartial and objective observer that this continued on throughout this entire election and the campaign process. And there's no question in my mind that this is. I will tell you, Richard, I don't remember if I did it on your show, but I do a weekly show with Sam Bushman on Liberty Roundtable.
Mm-hmm.
And over a year and a half ago, I predicted that this was going to happen. And I also said that it would be a complete blue wave and that they would take the socialists, leftists, communists would take over. Okay, just say Democrats. I don't care what you call them.
Mm-hmm.
The anti-American Democrats, anti-Constitution Democrats, anti-individual liberty Democrats made sure that this was going to happen. And I said they will take over the judicial branch at the federal level. And and we need to talk about that one in just a minute. I said that they would take over the Senate. That appears now to be at least a 50-50 proposition. And if it ties, Kamala Harris will be the tiebreaker vote.
Right.
So they are in the driver's seat there. I said that the Republicans would probably take back a few in the House, but not enough to matter.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like that's going to happen. We are definitely going to lose the White House. And I know everybody, oh, no, Sheriff Mack, how could you say that? You know, it's not over. It's not over. Yes, it is. Okay, I'll back Trump all the way. And I hope that they do produce something that can change this, but I really don't think they will, because who's in charge of all this? The Supreme Court could make some token little changes in this, but all of these main voting centers that were going after Trump are controlled by Democrat governors, 95% anyway, Democrat local officials, and even the one in Pennsylvania, was it the lieutenant governor or whoever's in charge of the voting in Pennsylvania? He said it's going to continue to be in Biden's favor. Right. Not as if he were predicting that, and I don't know why he would be making such statements when he's supposed to appear to be impartial. Mm-hmm. But it's that they're not. Richard, these people are not impartial. And most of the people counting those ballots were not impartial. And there were some people that got in to observe, and others were denied access to observe. And, you know, there might be some repercussions about that a little bit. But doing a full-scale investigation on the dead people that voted in the tens of thousands, that's not going to happen. They won't do it. And, you know, Trump can demand it, and somebody might do a token one there, but it's not going to change anything. This has happened before. I'll bet there's been over 100 people in the last 10 years arrested for voter fraud. Have the Republicans or the Democrats tried to change the methodology in how we vote in this country? No, they still stick with these ridiculous computer-operated voting, these Diebold machines that you can't verify what happens inside them. Right. And I have been part of two different committees, one in Utah, one in Arizona, for the last 20, 25 years, at least that, and trying to get them to hand count at least 1% of all the ballots across the country. Just count 1%. That's it. Well, that'll take a lot of time and money. I don't care what it takes. Verify the integrity of this election and these ballots, and see if the percent pretty much coincides with the tabulation from computers. If there's a significant discrepancy, you know you got problems. Right. And we have said for years to both Democrats and Republicans, you should have ballots, no computers, no hanging chads, no nothing. Right. My name, that ballot, print on that ballot. I sign it with my signature, and there's always a paper trail back to me because of that.
Right.
And that's what we should be doing. But neither side cares about it until something like this happens, and then they go squabbling and squawking. And let's not forget that one Barack Obama said publicly that let's not pretend. He said both parties are known to monkey around with the elections. But has he tried to do anything about it? When he was president, when he said it, afterwards, before? No. And either is anybody else, Richard. So, you know what? This is going to happen, and I'm going to go right back to the solution that has always been the solution, and that is that we take back America one county at a time.
Right. Right.
Now, if I could add one other thing,
Sure.
and I just alluded to it a minute ago. Have the Democrats told us and threatened us with more corruption? Obvious, and it's gone public.
Yeah,
Biden,
of course.
Kamala Harris, and many of the other Democrats in this country, they're all in favor of telling all of us that they're going to stack the Supreme Court with left-leaning socialist Democrats so that they can run the roost in Washington, D.C. And then, so they can have a complete monopoly and complete control of the United States Supreme Court. They are admitting that they know they will get corrupt people on the Supreme Court who will do what they're told and follow the Democrat agenda. How corrupt can you get? And everybody just accept that as, oh, that's just politics in Washington. This is complete and utter corruption, and that's what Washington, D.C. is. And that's why I'm still in mourning for my country, not necessarily for Trump, because there's going to be presidents that lose because of this. But this has not been taken care of, and the Republicans are almost as culpable as the Democrats in this.
Yeah, true. Especially when they had both houses and the presidency, and there was so much they didn't do.
And let's look at one other thing. And I think we've discussed this on your show before, but it bears repeating. Of all the horrible things that go on in our country, that both Democrats and Republicans have allowed taxpayer dollars to go to Planned Parenthood. Yeah, I'm not even talking about the efficacy of abortion, the political side of it, which you already know I abhor. But I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about how do we justify paying taxpayer dollars to a private organization that does such, okay, I'll say it this time, that does such heinous work and destruction.
Yeah.
And so how is it that we do that? How is it that we have a Federal Reserve that is no more federal than fly to the moon, where international bankers are controlling our money supply and the value thereof? Then we have a collection agency known as the IRS that throws innocent people in prison on a daily basis, where there are tens of thousands of Americans who are constantly harassed and harangued by this illegal, unconstitutional organization. Neither the Republicans nor the Democrats care a hoot about that.
Right.
And then we have a bunch of other alphabet bureaucracies in Washington, D.C. that eat out the substance of the American people, just like it says in the Declaration of Independence when it talked about the redcoat soldiers haranguing, harassing, and eating out the substance of the colonists. We've come full circle. Nobody cares. Nobody notices. And the bottom line, where I am so much in mourning today, and I am disappointed that Trump has lost. I am. This is the first presidential campaign that I've ever donated to. I donated to President Trump. I was really hoping that he would win, but I never believed he was going to. I never, not for 1 minute. And I did not share that a lot. I didn't want to be negative and cynical, and I tried to be positive. But I did say this several times on Liberty Roundtable, and you know, maybe I shouldn't tell the truth so much and speak my feelings, but I also think that that's part of the problem, is that maybe we don't. But I will tell you right now, if this happened, if we put the Constitution up for a vote, it would not pass. It would not win the election. The Constitution is something that is being destroyed today, and both Democrats and Republicans are also culpable in that regard as well.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot that you said in there. The first thing that I remember is you talked about the Democrats are going to pack the Supreme Court, which, of course, I mean, they've already partly done it by people masquerading as Republicans who got
Like
nominated.
Robert.
Yeah, and possibly others. But why don't you tell people who are not clear on what that means, what it is? Because some people think it just means waiting till there's a vacancy and putting somebody they like in.
No,
That's not what you're talking about.
See, most people think it would require a constitutional amendment to change the amount of justices who sit on the Supreme Court. It doesn't.
Right.
Constitution, Article 3 says nothing about how many have to sit on the Supreme Court. In fact, I haven't even looked this up. I don't know where it came from that there was 9.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that. How did they come up with 9?
I don't remember. All I know is it was 9 because they wanted to make sure that there wasn't always a tie vote, because there's no tiebreakers there.
It has to be an uneven number.
It has to be an uneven number. But since Amy Coney Barrett was appointed to the Supreme Court and by President Trump, and that caused such a stink, and the Democrats were finally right. This is really the epitome of hypocrisy on both sides. But this time, the Democrats were right. Mitch McConnell was very hypocritical about his choice 4 years ago, and then this one was just the opposite. Barack Obama picked somebody before the election came around, and that man was completely ignored because Mitch McConnell said so. One man said so, and I didn't want that guy on the Supreme Court, but lawfully and legally and constitutionally, it should have gone through. But Mitch McConnell stopped it because they had a majority of the Republicans in the Senate. This time, he did it just the opposite. So the Democrats got really mad about the hypocrisy, but the Democrats also lied to the American people, saying that it was not legitimate, or that it was illegal, or that was, I even think they said unconstitutional. But, you know, the Democrats can only talk about the Constitution so much without choking, because they're such liars, and they're the ones that have been trying to destroy the Constitution for decades. But
most of them think it's a democracy too, and
yeah, I mean, exactly. So, so the Democrats, now that they'll get control of the House and the Senate and the White House, and they might be able to do it even if they don't in the Senate, but anyway, we'll see. But they want to stack it to 13, to where they'll have 7 Democrats and 6 Republicans on the U.S. Supreme Court, and then they are doing that for one reason: so that they can have complete control and do anything they want. This is basically the return of the Declaratory Act that was passed by British Parliament back during the Revolutionary War, before the Revolutionary War. And when they repealed the Stamp Act, as they lied and said, well, the colonists want us to repeal the Stamp Act, so we will, but now we're going to put the Declaratory Act in its place. And it says that we can legislate in all matters whatsoever regarding the colonists. And so Thomas Paine penned in his famous American Crisis, or Common Sense, and he penned it in there and said, if the Declaratory Act, what the British did here, is not slavery, then there is not slavery upon earth. And that's exactly, if Congress can legislate anything in our lives, mass shutdowns,
right,
shutting down religion, which again, both parties have been in favor of to an extent, right. and they can do anything like that and suspend the Constitution, suspend liberty, then they can do anything to us, including make us their slaves. And right now, I'm wondering if we're not already. Because if you're in conflict with government, then you're already a slave.
Yeah, it's true. And you mentioned masks, and one of the first, I was going to say promises of Biden was a national mask mandate, no matter what the states do, to force everybody to wear masks all the time for our collective safety.
I can't wait how he brings us together with stuff like that.
Yeah, well, that'll make unity, because everybody who's not in unity will be in prison.
Right.
So, but a lot of people are mad at me for saying that I am not partisan at all, but I try to analyze I don't vote for anybody that I don't look at and try to understand what they're saying and doing. And it seems really clear to me that there's a massive character difference between Biden and Trump, as well as, what they've both said and what they've done and what they've tried to do.
To me, Trump did this. Trump really tried to keep his word. He made promises, building the wall. That got a lot of traction for him. He's tried to do it, even though the Democrats tried to block him at every turn. Increased relationship with Israel.
Yeah.
Making it an even playing field with China. Making it to where we're not paying all the dues to the United Nations and to NAFTA, where everybody there is paying their fair share.
Yeah.
He's been honest in putting America first. He has tried his best to protect the Second Amendment and life and the unborn. And that's why there's a lot of evangelical ministers, some very nationally well known, that totally support him.
Yeah.
Where he has failed is he did not really drain the swamp. And I'm not blaming him. I think the swamp was 10 times bigger than he imagined, and that the Democrats are 10 times more corrupt than he imagined.
Yeah.
But this is also one complaint I do have about him a little bit. He put too many swamp dwellers in his cabinet.
Well, he hired terrible people.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think it's because he wanted to have to fight with them all the time. It's just he came out of a background in business. Yeah. And when you hire people for your corporation, usually they're all excited about doing whatever you want so that
keep
they
your
can
friends
advance.
Close, your enemies closer.
Yeah. And most of the corporate employees want to at least make you think that they're your allies and doing a great job. And that's not the motivation in government.
I didn't even say anything about the wonderful economy that he created. And I honestly believe that the coronavirus was subterfuge to ruin his economy. And
I think that was one of many big purposes of it.
Yeah.
And it's going to get...
And I'm not saying there's not a coronavirus. I'm just saying it was blown out of proportion to make sure that it got to Trump politically.
Well, speaking of the Constitution, even if the virus, first of all, from the real figures, this is a huge subject, but what people don't understand who say the figures are overblown is that there aren't any figures. There are none because the test is irrelevant. The PCR test was said by its inventor to not work and could never be used for diagnosis. And it's very clear. And it may or may not be a coincidence that he died right before the inventor of the test died right before this whole thing blew up. But, I think it's for several purposes, and the main one is enslavement of the people. And it just, there's so much to say about it. CDC, massively corrupt criminal agency, has just declared there's no more flu in the U.S. anyway. And 30 to 80,000 people used to die every year. They do die every year from flu and pneumonia and related things like that. Now, because of the declaration, nobody's going to die of flu anymore. It's impossible because they won't pay any attention. But instead, all those people will be COVID-19. So all the people that say, well, there's no deaths, well, look at all those deaths. They're not called flu anymore. They're COVID-19. And that's building up for this new wave that's being planned for the winter that has nothing to do with reality, but it has to do with reality of enslavement, and it's coming soon. So if you were President Trump right now and you knew what you know, what do you think you would be trying to do to save things, make it better?
As I alluded to a little bit, I would really try to get criminal investigations going where there might very well be a smoking gun, and that is with dead people voting.
Yeah.
Any type of ballots that were received after 8 o'clock on November 3rd on Tuesday. I don't believe they should accept any ballots for 3 days, but that's another thing that the coronavirus Democrats tried to push through.
Does the Constitution say anything about that? Ballots received after the voting day?
I don't think so. I'll double check that too, but I don't think so. But it stands to reason that you would not. Voting day is November 3rd.
Right. Otherwise, you just keep voting till you get the result you want,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you don't have to worry about November 3rd. They already made it to where everybody could vote early. Why would you need to vote late?
Yeah,
You
there
had,
was enough time.
yeah, yeah, I know.
Even if you had one of these terrible cases and you were dying of coronavirus, you'd have time to either die or get better and vote.
And I
And
still want somebody to explain this one to me.
yeah,
My son has been out of the state working. He requested, what is that, an absentee ballot? Okay.
hmm
So he got it. He voted, sent it to me and my wife. He wanted to double check the ballot, which I did. I put it in the sealed envelope, which he signed.
hmm
I put it in the mail, which is prepaid mail. You don't have to put any postage on it.
right.
And then he looked up on the internet and his vote was canceled for some reason.
Maybe they get mad if it was opened twice or something like that. I
No,
don't
he
know.
sent it to me in a separate envelope. It wasn't
Oh,
open twice.
well, maybe they just got disqualified because it was not for the right candidate.
I took his ballot and I sealed it into the envelope that it's supposed to go in. He had already signed that envelope. There's a place for you to sign.
Right.
He did the whole thing. I didn't change a thing. I
And
just
there's no customer service that you can call and ask about it, I
well,
guess.
they actually said there was because a lot of other people were complaining about that, and they said call us and we'll validate your vote if for some reason it was canceled. What kind of voting process is that? Call us?
Yeah, if you
How are they
don't
going
like
to
your
verify
vote
who
being
he was? How are they going to verify over the phone who he was?
exactly, and if you have to call twice to get your vote counted, not too many people are going to get counted. The
No,
other thing you said that Trump could go after, the dead people voting and stuff like that,
right.
is from what I heard, there was at least one case where a truckload of, I don't remember the exact number, like 137,000 or something, ballots showed up in a truck after the voting
And
day,
none
and they
were
were 100% for Biden.
right. I saw some reporter that debunked that, but that comes up every 4 years or every 2 years, and I think that needs to be part of that investigation that I would ask for. I want a complete and utter impartial investigation. Where are you going to get that with the FBI today?
Well, and when you say investigation, there are so many things they pacify the public by saying, well, we're going to investigate it. And that's the last you ever hear.
I don't trust anybody in the FBI to do that. Do you?
No, not really, based on what's
The
happening.
FBI has decades of sordid commission of crimes themselves.
These investigations are like a long
criminal agency in the United States government at all. Not the DEA, VATF, FBI, CIA. Yeah, there's a trustworthy agency for you.
right.
And these rogue agencies, and Sean Hannity has always said, well, it's the hierarchy of the FBI, but the rank and file are just fine. No, they're not. They follow orders, and the number one rule in the FBI is never embarrass the FBI. In other words, never get caught at the subterfuge you are committing.
So it's not the same as the Oath Keepers, for example.
Not not even. And my father retired from the FBI. My cousin was a interim director, the number one man in the FBI between Sessions and Free. He was the director of the FBI
Right.
for about 6 months, and he was the number two man for about 10 years. He's an honest man, but he was also a company man, and he actually defended Waco to Congress. He did.
Wow.
And I was on the opposite side of that. I said it was a big farce and a cover-up. And
Well,
so
it looked like a total slaughter to me. I mean,
well, of course.
yeah.
And then when they put out the video that showed the infrared signature of the machine guns firing at people when they were trying to escape the fire,
Yeah.
they literally said that was a reflection from the sun.
Wow.
Yeah, where it's firing 80 rounds a minute, so.
It's really hard to have any system that works when you get basic evil infiltrating, everything.
Yeah. And so You know, I love my father and I love the work he did. I love my cousin, but both of them have followed and did follow some of the improprieties of J. Edgar Hoover, and then since then, some of the other stuff that of the crimes that were committed by the FBI at Waco and Ruby Ridge, and
Yeah.
to this day, it's David Koresh and the Branch Davidians who are blamed and who are assailed and ostracized by the public and by the media. And
Yeah.
Randy Weaver, the same thing. Randy Weaver,
Yeah.
his only crime he was found not guilty of because they entrapped him.
Ruby
He was
Ridge.
not guilty for cutting that shotgun off because he was entrapped by an undercover agent or an operative.
Yeah.
And he was found not guilty. So the only thing that he was guilty of is a failure to appear. And yet his wife and son were still murdered
Right.
for that.
And no one got in trouble for that either.
Agent Cahoe got convicted of falsifying evidence. And he was convicted of that.
But nobody for murder though.
No, not even. The guy who pulled the trigger on Vicki Weaver and blew half of her head off while she was holding little Elishama.
Right.
He was promoted and went to be a special agent in charge in Dallas.
So you know what kind of people they are looking for, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
And they've had a lot of years to find
the ones that just go along and do not embarrass the FBI.
Right.
They get promoted every time.
You know, we were talking about what you would do if you were Trump right now. And it seems to me that investigations can just blow away any amount of time and go nowhere.
Well, see, and that's the second part of that question. I'm sorry, but the second part of that question is this. Those investigations will take months, weeks. I mean, have you ever seen the FBI conduct a fast investigation? It should be very quickly done. You could do that in 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, if you're doing it yourself, it would be easy to do it fast.
Put 100 agents on that, and you can't show a smoking gun, and that if you can't prove that thousands of people, or 100, or 10, or none, if you can't prove that in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks, then you're in the wrong job.
That's plenty of time, and right now there's time to do that before January 20th.
I mean, take 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And go get that investigation done, and go after some of the other things that I, as president, am making accusations about. Right. However, if I'm president and that investigation goes on too long, or it proves nothing, then I am going to bow out gracefully, and I'm going to thank the American for a great 4 years, and then he can start going on television shows and maybe create his, which is I hope what he does, create his own social network. Yeah. So where we can boycott Facebook and Twitter and Google and a lot of these others that were completely against him. And that's another subterfuge that should be investigated. Why is it that doctors that want to tell the truth about coronavirus are completely shut down on YouTube and every place else? And or the American people that wanted to talk about the corruption of this election cut off completely from Facebook and Twitter and
because it goes against the agenda, you know.
And so you can see how the deck was stacked against Trump.
And before he did anything, he was called a major racist.
Oh yeah, of course.
Right. And he was about the least racist person I can imagine.
Oh yeah, totally. And yet, so this is the whole thing. When you see how that whole deck is stacked, that is why I said he's got all the social media against him. He's got the mainstream media against him.
Right.
He's got Republicans like Mitt Romney and John McCain's family and Jeff Flake and numerous others across the country.
Yeah.
And he's got all the Democrats. He's got the evil globalists and socialists and communists dead set against him. All these things about him being racist. I've even told people on also and others, a student just asked me about this and said, what do you think about Trump being a racist? And I said, show me one quote from him where he showed that he's racist. And they said, well, on the debate, he hesitated when asked to denounce white supremacy or KKK or Round Boys or whatever, the Proud Boys, whatever they were. And I said, yeah, he hesitated. I said, does that make him a racist? And I said, show me one racist comment from this man in the last 5 years.
You know, some of those groups that are defined as racist, like the Proud Boys, I'm totally open to them being racist, but I can't find any evidence of it. And I've looked at.
I don't even know who they are.
They're a group. There's another group like that called Patriot Prayer Group, and what both of them do is try to stand up for the benefit of the country and self-defense, basically. And the ones who defend themselves of the Proud Boys, for example, get sent to prison. So it's not what the media says it is. But as far as the investigation,
let's not forget that one either. If you
not forget who,
and you support the Constitution, you're a racist.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing is, as far as the investigations go, why not start where it's really easy? Because Biden has done a great service to the country and the world by making a video of him committing treason with respect to what happened in Ukraine, and explaining in detail for anybody that wanted to watch that it was $1 billion that he said he would withhold if they didn't get rid of a prosecutor going after his son's company. Yeah. And that was done. And it's all on video. How much investigation does it take to start that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, he would literally have to go through the same impeachment process as did Trump. And that's what they should do.
Well, but if a person has already, rather than impeachment, what about just criminal prosecution?
Criminal investigation, because they won't do impeachment because it's Democrat owned.
Right. So just prosecution as a criminal. And if somebody is committing treason, I don't think they can run for president. And then as far as Harris is concerned, I've gotten conflicting information about where she was born. Do you know about that?
Yeah, it's come up several times, and that needs to be investigated as well.
It could have been in the Caribbean somewhere, I think.
And so you know what you just did now?
No.
You just put Nancy Pelosi as president of the United States.
Well, that is one issue, yes.
Oh, you're all sorts of good news tonight.
Right. Sorry. But I think, you could maybe skip all that complexity, but if there was a way to expose for sure that the current election results are completely fraudulent, because then they would have to redo it. And if they redid it accurately, Biden would have a hard time finding any votes, because if you look at the rally participation, you had a few people sitting in these separated circles with Biden, and you had tens of thousands of people not being able to get in with Trump. So that's going to be roughly the percentages of people on both sides, I would think.
Scary and wild stuff, but yes, one Joe Biden actually did commit a crime as vice president of the United States.
Right. Yeah, he was vice president, right? Because he was inviting the people to call Obama, who was backing him up, and verify the, what would you call that? Is that extortion? Threatening to withhold money?
That is extortion. And not only that, but look at the crimes that he and his son committed. And there's nobody in this country who believes that Hunter Biden got tens of millions of dollars from major companies and government officials in the Ukraine, Russia, and China. Mm-hmm. And Joe Biden knew not one thing about it. That's what he said.
And one of the reasons that a lot of this is not understood is that all of the video evidence that came off the famous computer that was taken to the repair shop, the mainstream media hasn't had time in their busy schedule to show any of it.
They're too busy going after Trump on.
They can't do everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If that came out,
it shows the utter corruption of the left and the utter hypocrisy, and it's beyond hypocrisy. It's absolute treason. What these people have done. And it's so ubiquitous. I mean, it's just all, and I just am astonished by it.
Well, I think it was in Arizona, because they're having major gatherings of people protesting the election in every capital of the U.S. today in all 50 states. Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I don't think I'll be going.
No, it's already over anyway. It was at noon.
Well,
But
well, there's supposed to be another one tomorrow sometime.
but what I was going to say is in Arizona, there was a case where you're legally have to have poll watchers for the counting, who can stand and look over your shoulder as you're tabulating ballots. And they tried that in Arizona. They kicked them out, which must have been with the support of the police, or they couldn't have done it. And then they put cardboard over all the windows. Isn't that, cause for doing something?
Well, if you act like you have something to hide, you probably do.
Well, it's totally illegal, right?
Well,
how can it just be overlooked?
But yeah, and again, I would love to see any of that investigated, and there should be dozens of pictures of them doing that.
I think there are.
Yeah.
I've seen some of them
where
one person, not as a counter, but as a deputy person who fills out blank ballots, marking Biden, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. That's on video all over.
And seriously, though, you would think that all of that could be investigated in a matter of days.
At the most, if they were really slow and lazy, yeah.
Right.
And apparently nobody's doing that.
No.
That's strange.
It doesn't really seem like Trump is really focused on the real serious crimes that have been alleged here.
And that has been a theme with a lot of his responses to criminal activity. Yeah. That I think, how much is his advisors or how much is him, but, if he were really aware of some of these things, if he had bad advisors, he'd just fire them all the first day. He wouldn't keep them there giving him bad advice.
I don't think anybody's gone through cabinet members more than he has.
No, but why would he keep bad advisors more than one?
How many chiefs of staff has he had? I mean,
well, he should have gotten rid of the current attorney general about a week after he hired him.
Yeah, he should have never hired him. And
You're right. And
look at Fauci. I said Fauci has been one of Trump's huge mistakes as well. Yeah. Why doesn't anybody who really has stood and a history of standing for the Constitution and integrity, like Sheriff David A. Clark Jr., who Trump actually interviewed at one point to be on his cabinet, and then and you got to wonder why on that.
Why was he not chosen? Right.
There would have been a great chief of staff right there.
Yeah.
And then Ron Paul and Rand Paul.
Yeah, exactly.
In there anywhere, but no, we keep getting these guys in charge, and we still put innocent Amish farmers in prison.
Well, I would disagree with your use of the word "we," because I think it's too easy to say that this is not we.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
you didn't do any of this stuff.
Certainly not me. I've been fighting against it for 15 years.
Right, exactly. So I think we've got a corrupt group that's been infiltrated, from levels way above president that are international, and they're controlling too much of everything right now. And it's like everybody's afraid of going against them.
And this was probably the reason that the Democrats are so upset with Trump, is that this was the first time administration really made a difference, and that he was going after the agenda to put America first and to secure the border, and he really did do what he said he was going to do.
Well, I heard that on the border, even with the resistance from both parties, that there's been something like 400 miles of new wall built at this point.
Yeah,
out of 2,200.
And that's going to be taken down now. And
of course, it's racist to have a wall.
Right, racism. And so if you want people to come here legally, and I do, I invite anybody from the world. Bring us your tired, your huddled masses. You're yearning to breathe free. Oh, we don't allow that anymore. Make sure you have your damn mask on.
Right, exactly.
No more breathing free, but we'll let you in. I'm all for that. And I don't want to be facetious about that, but I'm all for legal.
I
But
agree.
if you say you're for, if you say you're against illegal immigration, you're a racist.
Yeah,
Stop.
it's funny how they twist words around like that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like, all right, that means you want to live in a bad neighborhood and have no walls on your house
Mhm.
for your own safety to make sure that you're not racist.
Right.
So, yeah, I totally agree.
That's a racist.
Okay. Well, if the if it can't be solved from the top, which a lot of people certainly feel that way right now, how are I mean, especially in light of what you just said about Fauci and his friends being the unelected rulers over the president at this point, and their agenda is being moved forward, and Fauci's at least got a well-known, distinguished background of leading the AIDS scam too, very much like this one. And those guys are in charge now. So given that, and then it's probably going to be pushed forward so that they get to clamp down much tighter in the near future. How is that solved at the county level?
Well, I don't know if everything is solved there, but certainly leaving people alone and leaving people to run their own lives
Mm-hmm.
will be. And obviously, we're going to have to take local action against local health departments. And we got to make sure that my Supreme Court case is being used. That's what this is all about. And that we actually tell them, look, this has already been settled. Two county sheriffs already settled this issue. We're not subject to federal direction.
What if your governor takes over and does it instead?
Then we have to fight him. And we stand up against it. We already have sheriffs doing that, even of the same party. Sheriffs here in Arizona who actually like Ducey
Mm-hmm.
stood against him. And there's going to be more doing it after this, when it comes January 1st.
Okay.
Because we're a couple of more other really good sheriffs here in Arizona. It doesn't matter what party. That's the problem. Party politics has nothing to do with this. But
when they stand against a decision of Ducey, which I guess is the one to let everybody enforce their own mask mandates locally, which I think is the last thing Ducey said about it.
Yeah.
Is that are they objecting under the state constitution or the federal constitution?
I think they're just objecting under the principles of liberty, but it's been both.
Okay.
It has been both, no question. But even if the federal constitution or the state constitution said nothing about that,
Yeah.
individual liberty is still the ultimate goal. And
That was supposed to be the reason the country was started, actually.
there you go again with those fundamental.
Sorry, it makes me a conspiracy theorist, I know.
That's good, Richard.
So what if it doesn't work with Ducey and he can't enforce it? What about the unelected health authorities enforcing it? What can the sheriff do then?
That's really where the sheriff should be spending some serious time and telling them, you're not enforcing anything in this county. And you know that a lot of the businesses, I saw an analysis on that today, and I really, and I can't remember what show, what network I was watching. I do turn it to CNN until I start to throw up, and then I turn it to Fox, and I start to throw up, and then I'll look at some things on the internet. But I saw a statistical analysis of the restaurant business, and I think it was put out by the National Restaurant Association.
Yeah.
It said in there that these restaurants, the smaller restaurants, will have no way of recovering from what we've already done to them until 2022, and that most of them and the bigger ones will not recover from this year's shutdown until 2025.
And that's before the new wave that they're about to start.
Exactly. And I'm telling you right now that a second wave of a shutdown will create such a destruction in this country that soup lines of the Great Depression will make this look like kindergarten.
Yeah, that's one thing I would have loved to see an enlightened Trump do, is go on direct television, bypass all the media criminals, and just speak directly from his office and explain the pandemic and explain economics, and that no matter what you call free money, it destroys the country to get into it.
Yeah.
Right. And he never said anything about that. And I'm not saying he could. I'm not dealing with the pressure that he is. But
Yeah.
the reality of economics, which haven't been taught to most people in America for a long time, is that
Oh, no,
everybody needs a basic understanding of it. Right.
we've been taught, all right. We've been absolutely brainwashed that spending does not matter. Just give me more money,
Yeah.
cause the problem, and then pay me to accept the solution.
Yeah.
And then build the debt and build the debt. You see, and it, you know what? If the debt doesn't matter and deficit spending doesn't matter, and now that we're 150% over our GDP and in debt, and they want to do it again and make it to where it's about 33, 34. If Nancy Pelosi gets her way, I'm sure it'll be 35. It'll be another 5 trillion to
Yeah.
help us all because they care so much about us and they're
Exactly.
trying to help us through this horrible pandemic that they, of course, caused.
And it's our
And
human right to have them give us everything.
yes, yeah, of course, not just healthcare, but give us everything free, for heaven's sakes.
Right. In fact, why do you need production and manufacturing and farming at all if you just get free money?
Just get it free.
Right.
What's the matter with these farmers? You know,
I know. Well,
to be free.
there won't be any farmers to blame soon, except maybe a few gigantic GMO ones.
Very true.
But if
so
you kill manufacturing and give out free money both at the same time,
yeah,
you know what you're guaranteeing.
And so we've already been brainwashed that that matter, and now they know they can do anything else. And the sleight of hand in putting this economic revival payout of the general fund. The general fund's been bankrupt for decades.
Yeah, yeah,
Still
exactly.
over this deficit spending because everybody's convinced that the government is the only one in the world that can violate the principles of economics or commit the crime of basically check kiting or credit card kiting.
Mm-hmm.
You pay off one credit card by getting another one, and you pay off those
exactly.
by getting 5 more.
Right, and then in the end, the government just cancels all credit card debt, and it's great, and you start over.
Oh, it's wonderful, isn't it?
Right, right, because debt doesn't exist, and the way that the lesson eventually happens is you learn what a super depression feels like, and everybody dying of starvation, and I don't think that's a very good way to do it.
If you think that toilet paper shortage was something, wait till you see the next wave. What the Democrats do to everybody.
Yeah, because especially with the fake pandemic tests for the virus, because if you have a big plant and 2 of the people are tested positive on the fake test, the whole plant shuts down in a lot of cases.
And what about the liars on the left that said that Trump was going to do everything to get a vaccination before the election?
Yeah, I you know, if he started giving talks from his office, I would like to have him tell the truth about the whole situation with that. The whole illustrious history of vaccinations back to 1796, and all these people that some of whom I really admire, saying that there's a clean version that the elites get. That's complete nonsense.
I would love to spend some time and sit down with President Trump and go over the Constitution with him where he was a little bit wrong.
Yeah.
And sometimes very wrong, but I still would tell him I admired how he stood. I wish that he would have been a little bit more diplomatic and not try to fight with everybody. He should have called a truce to the John McCain fight way before he did.
Sure.
And yes, the John McCain family even kept that going during McCain's funeral. But it was a shame that it went the way it did. Mitt Romney acting like a complete jackass, acting like a Democrat, and why he calls himself a Republican, I'll never know. John McCain was no Republican either. But we have all these rhinos in their varying degrees, and Jeff Flake literally blaming Trump for why he could not run again.
Right. I remember.
He doesn't blame himself. He blames Trump.
one of the biggest flaws, I think, and huge mistakes on Trump's side, giving into the media pressure and the opposing party pressure, was not to negotiate with Russia for a peaceful coexistence.
Yeah.
Because during the initial debates in 2016, they offered, they said, the Russians said, war's a really stupid waste of resources. Why don't we just help each other and have a mutually beneficial business exchange? Yeah. And Trump said no, because he was being called a Russian agent. And if he was cooperative with Russia, they would have held it against him.
Yeah.
I think his advisors got that through. So if the sheriffs in each county can stand against all this kind of stuff, if they're up to it, how do we get more sheriffs to, I mean, I think you know better than I, but most of the sheriffs probably don't grasp this concept at all still, of the 3,000 some in the country.
Right.
And that needs to be changed.
We got a lot of work to do, and we hope that everybody listening to this program will join us, that you'll help us, and that we will pursue the only effective and peaceful solution we have left. That was basically while Trump was president, and it's still the same, and it's more now as the socialists take over America.
Yeah.
We must build these pockets and erect the barriers against the socialists and communists and people who would destroy America, foreign or domestic enemies, foreign or domestic enemies. And we have an obligation to do that. And all we're trying to do at the CSPOA is point out what's going on, and that the sheriffs do have the authority. And I just pray that they have the courage to do so. And
after they get the education, of course.
I'm retiring from school. I'm resigning from school, and I'm going to do this full time. I saw this coming. I turned in my resignation 2 weeks ago.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
I'm retiring at Christmas, and I pray the good Lord will be able to bless my wife and me enough to pay our rent.
Yeah, we need money coming into CSPOA.
Back to Gilbert because I moved out here in Levine to be closer to my school. And the coronavirus, here I go. Well, I guess it is the coronavirus.
It's one of many coronaviruses.
The reaction to the coronavirus has made it impossible for me to be a teacher.
Well, actually, the virus is pretty innocent of that, but the people using it as an excuse to crack down on everybody has made it pretty impossible, and that's going to continue.
I can't do it anymore, and I'm putting of course, what I guess we all should be doing anyway, putting our lives in God's hand.
Yeah.
I hope that it works out for us, but I know He lives, and I know He's in charge.
Yeah.
And I know that evil things will happen to us, just like this election of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I believe that both of them have a history of complete evil. I do not trust either one of them. I think that Biden is literally sick. I believe he's seriously in a heavy stage, an advanced stage of Parkinson's. And I know they know that the next president very soon will be Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Either way, neither one of them will be running the White House. They're puppets, and they're really good ones, and they don't mind being such.
Well, and they also have let us know, Kamala Harris, I heard her say it, that they're going to use executive orders, which all the presidents have blown way out of proportion, to order the confiscation of firearms, to limit free speech against what they call disinformation. Joe said he would make it mandatory for everybody in the country to wear masks regardless of what your county says. And what you're saying on the other side is something that's another big subject, and we're out of time for it. But you're talking about nullification and the principle of nullification. And the basic idea, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that at the federal level or the state level, certain laws are made that may or not be constitutional or in line with natural rights. And if they're not, then at the lower level, which could be the county, the city, any lower configuration of government, like the county sheriff, for example, it can be declared null and void because it doesn't go with the rights in the Constitution that are acknowledged in the Declaration. And so that's what CSPOA is going to educate and encourage sheriffs to be able to do that. Somebody has to actually be the point person to get that done, which is the sheriff.
I sure hope everybody listening will donate, become members, and be a part of this CSPOA movement to get back our freedom.
This is the alternative to a commercial that we're doing here. This is not paid anything. This is because we actually think it's important. It's just an honest opinion that CSPOA should be flooded with funds right now. And if you're in a position to do that, please do. And if you can tell them how to do it, Sheriff Mack, that would be good.
Well, thanks. And it's been great to be with you, Richard. Everybody just go to cspoa.org, stands for Constitutional and Peace Officers Association, cspoa.org, or give us a call at 602-268-9268. That's our office line. We'd love to hear from you. Be a part of the solution.
Yeah, this is something that if I had an extra few $1 million, I would definitely give it to them. And, I couldn't do that, but I became a member and it doesn't cost very much. So you can do that, donate whatever you can, take the course that they teach all the principles in there, and then get it to your sheriff soon, because I think things are going to potentially tighten up so fast that we need to use the remaining time, whatever it is, really well.
Amen.
So thank you, Sheriff Mack. I really appreciate it. We need to do this periodically if you're up to it.
Absolutely.
Have a good rest of the night.
See you later.
All right. Okay, you guys, that was Sheriff Richard Mack. We're a little bit over time. Sorry about that. Got to get ready for the club meeting. This is Planetary Healing Club meets in 26 minutes, and that's where we go deeper into these same issues and into what you can do yourself, and the added really foundational principle that to become more effective in whatever way you're working in the outside, whether it's working in the relationships you have at work or in your family, or any cause that you're working for, to get things cleaned up in any direction, the results are really proportional in what I've seen to the work you do inside yourself, which is not a belief system. It doesn't need a new religion or anything like that. It's based on consciousness and getting your physical health back, because even the real laws of nature and physical health are radically suppressed in this country and most of the world. And they're still out there. They've been known for thousands of years. People have adapted them to now. In Planetary Healing Club, we're free to discuss those things. And I'll share the information that I've got with you. And if you're interested in all that and you are up to using it, then I'm inviting you to join us if you want to. And you can access that at planetaryhealingclub.com. Anybody that feels like helping to keep us on the air without, we don't do commercials or anything. We have donate buttons, whether it's $1 or, $1 billion or anything in between. Go to lostartsradio.com and there's a donate button there, also at lostartsresearchinstitute.org. All of the funds go to our nonprofit that runs the whole thing, and that we'll build a school if we can get the money together to do that. And I'm hoping we can, and unless and until that happens, we'll keep doing it online as long as we can. We're on brighteon.com, brighteon.com/channel/Lost Arts Radio. They don't censor. That'd be a good thing for you to be signed up for right now. It doesn't cost anything at all. And if that's the only place you can find us, you can go there. And or go to our main website, lostartsradio.com, and that's a link to all the live platforms that we're on. Also, we have a Subscribestar channel. If you want to donate at various levels to us, that's subscribestar.com/lostartsradio. Good system. And the main message is take care of yourself, realize the incredible potential that you have. It's not like you've been told. You're not this limited, ineffective little weak being that needs experts to save you and run your life. It's just the opposite. That's why you were taught that, to keep you unconscious. So we're saying that's a good guidance from the authorities. Do the opposite as usual. And and you can benefit. So don't hate anybody, just improve yourself, work for what's good, and work to get healthy and more conscious, and you can make your maximum contribution to the people who are in your life and wherever you want to let it go. So thanks for being with us again. Sorry for being over time a few minutes. Hope you have a great week. And if you want to be in the club meeting, planetaryhealingclub.com, and I will personally see you there, interactive and live, in about 22 minutes. So thanks for being with us, and we'll see you shortly.